o'clock. So welcome everyone to the final council meeting of the triennium. So we'd like to open proceedings with Reverend Greg Hewson, who will have a prayer for us.
Well, kia ora tātou, and thank you for the invitation to have a karakia, a blessing on your final meeting, a very significant occasion, and I have come to know several of you over the last few years, and I'm aware of the immense amount of work that you've put in, and I'd like to pay special tribute to David Benson Pope, who's here with his family. Oh, he's over here. Well done, David. We first met 25 years ago and our daughters are good friends. So this is Dunedin. We're all sort of interconnected. And just to acknowledge the passing of Reverend Donald Phillips. Donald died on Sunday and his tangi will be at Hope's, but then he'll be buried at Otako Marae. And there is a very long and historic connection between our Methodist Church and the marae at Otako. So it's an honour for us all to be able to celebrate Donald's life on the marae on Saturday. So for the last 9 years I've organised interfaith prayers for this council, and thank you for the privilege of having people of a range of different faiths coming. And it is our hope as an interfaith council that the new council will choose to continue this process. That is our hope. We're certainly very keen to continue. We hope that the blessings we've offered from people of many faiths over these years have been helpful. Blessings from the Muslim community, the Buddhist community, the Christian community, the Jewish community, the Baha'i community, the Hare Krishna, and we've had Māori and Tongan and Samoan and other cultures. So we try to get a balance, and we do get helpful feedback on which we continue to arrange a diversity of people to come. So a very significant meeting as you reflect back on the years of service, and some of you will continue, will carry on, we don't know yet, with polling day still coming up, but let's join together in prayer. Thank you, loving God, for this opportunity to meet, and today we give you thanks for the diligence of each city councillor here over the last 3 years. We thank you for the commitment, for the time, for the sacrifice that each councillor has made to serve in this important role. And we give thanks for those who are standing for council again. Pray that everyone who is voting will do so wisely and with adequate reflection on the policies and character and priorities of each candidate. We give thanks for all that has been done by every member of this council over these last 3 years. And we pray for those who will be re-elected, and we pray for those who will not be re-elected, that the future may be full of hope and possibility, whichever way the election goes. Thank you for those who have served, thank you for those who will be re-elected, and thank you for those who will not be re-elected. For the new council, we pray that they will have the capacity to implement healthy principles of engagement between council and our community. For this meeting, we pray for guidance around the dynamics of the time in between, the interregnum, from polling day until when the newly elected council meets. And we pray for your blessing and guidance on discussions around the council's role as a water services provider. We give thanks that council is committed to working closely with mana whenua to shape the future of water services in Ōtepoti Dunedin. So e te whānau hui, whaia te mataronga kia marama, kia whai take ngā mahi katoa, tū maia, tū kaha, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa. For this gathering, seek knowledge for understanding, have purpose in all you do, stand tall, be strong, and let us show respect for each other. Amen. Kia ora, thank you.
Kia ora, ngā mihi nui. Thank you very much, Reverend Hewson. I have no apologies. So We'll move on to the confirmation of the agenda. So I move that Council confirms the agenda without addition or alteration. Seconded, Councillor Walker. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any alterations? I see none. Therefore, I move the Council notes the elected members' interest and the proposed management plans for those. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Lucas. All in favour say aye. Against? Carried. And item 5, confirmation of minutes. That both the public and non-public minutes of the council meeting held on 23 September 2025 is a correct record. Is there any commentary? No. So I move that council confirms that. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Lucas. All in favour say aye. Against? Carried. And item 6. So this is quite significant item on the agenda, and it says here that the Chief Executive will speak to this. Do you have some comments?
Council, as you're aware, there's an election on Saturday. In the period between the election and when the new council is sworn in, there needs to be delegations in place to allow the operation of council to continue. The report in front of you does that.
Very good. Very good. So are there any questions? No questions. So it's moved by Councillor Walker, seconded by Councillor Wiley. Any commentary? Therefore, I'll put the motion. All in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Item 7. The local Water Done Well recommended amendments to the significance and engagement policy. So will Ms Canton and Ms Mackenzie come to the desk, and somebody will make an introduction. An introductory comment, please. Ms Canton.
Good afternoon, councillors. This is a report that's designed to allow council to continue with its ordinary procurement practices. Under the water services legislation that came into force only weeks ago, council is required to identify whether a contract is a significant contract, and this applies to all contracts. So, but the only way that you can determine whether a contract is a significant contract is by looking at criteria in your significance and engagement policy. So the Act has listed some criteria that must be in the policy. So what we've done is we've focus solely on this particular aspect that needs to be changed in the significance engagement policy. There will be a subsequent report which will look at the wider things that need to be changed, but this was the priority issue because we didn't want it to delay procurement processes. Happy to take any questions.
Yes. Are there any questions? Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just on page 46, paragraph 18, it talks about whether the proposed contract is of high value relative to the revenue. Is there actually a percentage that goes with that, or is that just a stretchy number?
The legislation itself doesn't provide for any percentage. Council can and could put that into the significance and engagement policy, but we thought about that, and what we've done instead is linked it to documents that have already been through a public consultation process. So effectively what we're saying is if it's already budgeted for through the long-term plan or an annual plan, then even if it is high, it won't be treated as high because it's already been through that public consultation process.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Lucas.
Thank you. On page 60, when it talks about the criteria for significant contracts, is that straight from the new Act, or is that what we already have, that criteria?
It's a combination. So what we did is we took the criteria from the legislation and included what we must include, and then we've adapted it to make it a way that we think will work in practice.
that makes sense. And then just in that last paragraph in that section, when it talks there, it says, if then the answer to question A will be treated as no, this means that the proposed water services contract will not be deemed to be a significant contract if the answers to questions B, C, D and E are also no. But if B, C or D is a yes, if any one of those is yes, then it is still a significant contract. I'm just checking that.
Yes, the intention is that everything that we've done as routine practice won't be caught. But if, for example, we were doing a contract that was over 15 years, then that is in an exceptional category and that would trigger it.
Great. Councillor O'Malley?
And I'm exactly in the same place, and I'm looking at Part A of those amendments. And then the paragraph, so whether proposed water services is of high value, which was just covered, but then underneath it says, if the answer to A is yes, then you consider whether the funds are budgeted in proposed water services and long-term plans, etc. And then if it is, then you treat it as no. How would the city care contract existing now be treated under that criteria, in as much as we budget for services in Three Waters, but we contract that activity out? So that would not be considered significant under Part A because it's budgeted?
That's correct.
You know, what's the rationale for that, actually?
The rationale is that the budget process has already been through a public consultation process. So effectively, the public has an opportunity to comment on any large budgetary items and could suggest at that time other options to what is proposed.
But they would have to be consulted on the structure of the delivery if you're going to use a contracted delivery system after you've budgeted for it. And if they haven't been consulted on that, then have we met the consultation at that point?
So the structural element would be a separate consideration, as in we're talking solely the monetary amount. Obviously, yeah.
It's the amount of money you're putting into a contract is under the significance engagement policy. How you deliver it once you've agreed to doing that is not under this policy, is it?
Yeah.
Any structural change in the legislation has got requirements. All we've done in this significance and engagement policy at the moment is dealt with the significant contracts part. There's a lot of different structural any change to a structural arrangement, it could trigger the change proposal requirements. That's the more onerous ones we've talked about in this paper. And there's various structural arrangements that trigger that. Significant contracts are just one of those triggers.
From our perspective, looking at this, it's the fact that it's budgeted. It would effectively have to be a new budgeted activity then to trigger A, wouldn't it? Because if it's already triggered, if it's already budgeted, then it's not triggered.
Yes, either it would need to be a new budgeted item or a new item, or a significant cost overrun compared to what is budgeted.
Basically, if we were to give a contract to somebody for something that was budgeted and it was less than 15 years long, we wouldn't kick this policy in.
That's correct.
Okay. Were there any further questions? Yes, Councillor Fiso.
Tēnā koe, Mr Mayor. Tēnā kōrua. I'm not sure if this question is for you or for the Chief. I'm referring to the summary of considerations, page 50. Māori impact statement. So it talks about a commitment to working with mana whenua. Is the mechanism for that initially te taki hararu?
Probably not. The advice we are getting for water services delivery generally is that there needs to be a specific committee, potentially of council, to look at that, and then the representation around the table would need to be considered, whether that was mana whenua reps or independent experience as well. So I would imagine that is likely to be the mechanism, or te pai Māori as opposed to te taki.
Okay. Any further questions? I see none. Thank you very much. So, that being the case, I'll move that Council notes the Local Water Services Act 2025 and that has recently become law, and the various changes required for our significance and engagement policy. And we have the list of reasons that we don't have to consult on the recommended amendments, but it approves the recommended amendments to our significance and engagement policy. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Lucas. So, in speaking to this, I would say that it's largely an administrative exercise to make sure that what we do with our S&E policy complies and fits, dovetails with local water done well. So I think it's relatively straightforward, and the mechanisms that we have in place for establishing budgets and work programs and so forth will remain, and we have those well established over a good period into the future. So I look forward to us improving our infrastructure as we have planned. Any other comments? Councillor O'Malley.
Mr Mayor, I agree it's primarily an administrative response to the government legislature, and I thank the staff for bringing this to us. I am concerned about that subclause A and the interpretation of when it's treated, largely because while this talks about the contract itself, it doesn't necessarily talk about the delivery mechanism, and therefore in-house, out-of-house subcontracting isn't really, it looks like there's potential for that to maybe slip through the cracks, but it's not a thing I would hold this up on waiting to find, but really just noting that I think we need to keep a close eye on what that subclause means.
Very good. Any other comments? Councillors? No, I see none. And therefore I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Item 8. Acknowledgement of retiring community board members. So this is an opportunity for councillors to pay tribute to retiring community board members, and I shall ask each of the councillor delegates to the community boards to speak to their community boards. And I note that Lynn has very kindly added up the combined service of all of the retiring community board members is 169 years, which is quite a phenomenal effort on behalf of those community board members on behalf of their communities. And it is fantastic to see that and acknowledge that. And I'm very pleased that we have one of those, one of the longest serving community board members here to speak today. But first we'll start with the Mosgiel Tauri Community Board and Deputy Mayor Lucas, who was the delegate throughout the Traineum to that board. Will speak to that. A total of 18 years service.
Thank you. Yes, it was my privilege to be the councillor representative on the Mosgiel Tauri Community Board, and we have 4 retiring members this triennium. Our chair, Andrew Sims, who has served from 2022 to 2025, and under Andrew's chair, the Community Board has, I think, had a very stable working relationship and a much better relationship with council than in previous terms. And during the time of this Community Board, they have hosted 2 large public meetings, one to do with the heavy vehicles in Mosgiel and one over the cycleways across the Tauri and the Tunnels Trail, both very well supported and of high interest to the community. And this community board has finally seen the fruition of years of lobbying, I think since 2017, to the ORC to get the capacity of the silver stream restored back, and the ORC, as we speak, have started work on that. So that has been a long-standing project that that community board have undertaken. And Andrew, in his time as chair, has been heavily involved in working with the group involved in the Gordon Road spillway and seeing resolution of that with the ORC. Andrew is standing down from the community board as he seeks a place around the larger council table this year. This election. We also have retiring Dean McAwee, who has been on the community board since 2016. He's been the deputy chair and he is extremely well connected throughout the community. He lives in Outram and is definitely the point of contact in terms of any civil defence out in Outram. He's always means the best for the community and is very hardworking, and I would like to think that this is a temporary situation where he needs to place his interests with his family, and I'd like to think that in time we see him back representing our community around the table. Catherine Anderson, she's been on the board for one term since 2022. During her time she's built relationships with the Tory network, and she was on the steering group to help develop the new reserve plan for the Memorial Park, and she has always been our connection with the younger voice on the Tory, and with a young family she has several commitments that is taking her away from the community board, but I'd like to think that we will see her in governance roles in the future. And the final retiring member is Regan Horrell, who also has had one term from 2022 to 2025. He's been the Zone 6 representative on LGNZ Community Board Executive Committee, and one of the things that he has championed is the Community Board Council Relationship Guide that has just been recently published. He has been definitely the voice of the Community Board, ensuring that through all media channels is that the voice of the community board has been heard, and he too has changing commitments, which has meant that he is no longer standing. So I would like to record our sincere thanks to all of those members for the service that they've given to the City of Dunedin.
Thank you. Yeah. And so now we move to the Otago Peninsula Community Board. So Councillor Wiley will speak to that, and Mr. Lox Callis will come to the desk and speak after Andrew.
Lox, I will let you go first and you can talk about your time on the community board.
Last man standing, is it?
Yeah.
Yes, I was a bit surprised when Lynn sent me the email, so I had to reduce it from 7.5 to 5 hours to say thank you. However, I'll be brief. It's been enjoyable. A community board is an essential tool in the community. It's that contact between the people that live in the community and the next layer in the territorial authorities, right? Because sometimes people are a bit reluctant to come forward to talk things to council, but the local knowledge serves them well. I'm pleased with what we've done. Well, I've seen done on the board. I think we've got that peninsula connection just about sorted, apart from the piece outside the Portobello Hall, and I hope funding will continue after the elections to complete it. And there's been big changes in the peninsula. I've been there since 1984, and the whole demographics and the geopolitical landscape has changed. We've gone from a backwater to where all the ecotourism places are. We've got international recognition, international status, and I think we've got to be up to the mark. I did it because I think there was a need to serve the community. I didn't do it for any other gain, no political gain. And yes, I have been involved in other organisations. But I think if you're going to live in a community, you've got to do your bit and to play your part. And so, as my grandfather said, it's not the hen that cackles the most that lays the bonniest egg. And so he was quite right. But I think that at the end of the day, I've enjoyed it. I'm grateful for the work that Leah McVeigh did to get this board up and running with her corporate knowledge. I'm glad I've worked with some great people. I must pay a compliment to the staff that I've had to work with over the time, especially with Susil in the rating engineering department, and also Andrew Lord, who've been been exceptional. And in fact, all staff have been exceptional that I've had to deal with right across the whole 23 years. I think if you're going to do this job, you've got to do it well, you've got to have a passion for it, you've got to have the energy, and after 23 years, sometimes the energy level starts to dissipate a bit. So my message to those that want to step in to do it, I use that phrase, the old Gaelic phrase, ach ben stúr service, lead but serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Lox. Andrew.
I would like to acknowledge the outstanding service of Lox Callis to the Otago Peninsula Community Board from 2002 to 25. For those that are wondering, it was 8 elections he went through and survived, so congratulations. Well done on that. Lox has provided leadership, experience and unwavering commitment to the people of the peninsula. His contribution has been both extensive and his presence has been integral to the development and strengthening of the board's role within the Dunedin community. Yes, it was extremely beneficial to have the Peninsula policeman prior to his retirement on the community board, but he was a great asset even after his retirement. Through his service, Lox has taken on a range of responsibilities, including civil defence and community response planning, peninsula roads, harbour safety and the back bays and high cliff areas. On these issues, he was a strong voice, demonstrated diligence, attention to detail and a strong sense of accountability. His advocacy for road safety, infrastructure improvements and preparedness for civil defence emergencies has been of significant benefit to residents, and his voice has ensured that the concerns of our communities have been clearly heard at this table. Lox, for me, having your knowledge and expertise of the community was extremely valuable. I'm sure this isn't the last time the table hears from you, and thank you again for everything you've done for the Peninsula community. But also, you continue to provide extensive service across the city in various roles, especially with the RSA and groups related to returned servicemen. Thank you, Lox. From words from Otago Peninsula Community Board Chair, Lox has served the Community Board admirably and productively over the years. Fiercely proud of where they came from and the people they represent, Lox's dedication and hard work has been exceptional. Thank you.
Very good. Yes. Councillor Gary.
Thank you. Lox, it's been an absolute privilege to serve with you, and I served as chair of the community board and you were on the community board, and it was a real asset to have you there. I want to start by acknowledging Sharon, your wife, who's in the gallery, to thank her for her support over 23 years, because you cannot do this role without the support of family. So I want to take time to do that first. Your unique mix, as Councillor Wiley said, as a community board member, the local police officer and a Coast Guard member was hugely beneficial to community board, and you managed to juggle those roles and keep all those boundaries very, very well. It wasn't unhelpful that you were roving over the peninsula, all inches of the peninsula, which you knew particularly well, all the time as part of your job as police officer. And so we always knew that you would know the condition of the roads. And when I was chair, that was the role that you had, was to report on the roads and to keep in touch with our transport team about that, and you did that very admirably. Thank you for your persistence about Peninsula Connection Te Ao Otako, because it was the likes of you that helped the community lead that project and land when it did to get full funding to complete the project. And I know that you will be watching with great interest as that unfolds to completion, and I look forward to seeing you at the final hurrah for that, the big celebration. You have always been an extraordinary advocate for the Otago Peninsula, and you were never afraid to tell the council about issues that were dear to you and important to local people. And you were never afraid to tell me as chair what you thought about certain issues. I wouldn't die wondering, and I appreciated that greatly. Thank you, Lox. We always had that maritime connection, and I knew your skills in that area, which was important because of the safety of our local people. So thank you for your service. It was a true honour to serve with you, and I wish you a very happy retirement, although I understand you have some national roles. So Sharon, I don't think he's going to be at home much at all. All the best.
Thank you. Any further? Yes. Councillor Barker.
Kia ora, Lox. I think we've known each other. It feels like forever. I've known you as a Peninsula resident when you used to come out and deal with some of the naughty stuff going on. We weren't doing the naughty stuff at the castle. And how well you knew everybody and your amazing resilience, I think, in dealing with some of those issues. And I've known you as a staff member when we went out hunting for freedom campers all over the Otago Peninsula and did that work together. And as a staff member, I really appreciated working with you as well. And then, of course, I know you as a councillor and your amazing advocacy as for the Peninsula, but I also know you and treasure you as a person and somebody that I really enjoy catching up with and just love the work that you do for the Otago Peninsula, and it's so much appreciated that you give so freely of your time and your expertise and your love for everybody on the Peninsula, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mayhem.
Kia ora, Lox. I was just thinking back to when we first met, and it was during community emergency response planning meetings, something I'm very passionate about in my community board area. And I was thoroughly impressed with your military type regime that you'd applied to the Peninsula, right down to coordinates for each of the communities for the port and naval manoeuvres, and I think you helped me and shared a whole lot of documents and while we were setting up emergency response for our area, and I've always admired you as such a stalwart for your community, as an actual embodiment of what it is to serve community and really to have the best interests of the Peninsula at heart. And I think that you beat me. I only managed to do 6 years. I couldn't imagine serving for 23, and I hope that you'll take the time now to enjoy a few nice gin and tonics on the deck, and maybe relax a little bit in the garden after all your years and years of mahi serving the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Eklund.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Lox, I'd just like to add my thanks and gratitude to all the work that you've done for community over the years. And it's not just things like the police and obviously Community Board, which you very much stand out as a public figure, but being a trustee of Monticello Home, which I had the honour of doing as well at the same time as yourself, I thought it was a wonderful experience, and your guidance and advice was very, very appropriate in that particular environment. And I'm sure you remember the old Monticello with the Anzac Days and Christmas Days and the Russell Hall show band and so on and so forth, and they were good times as well. And I remember you saying about 3 years ago, just after the last election, congratulations getting on to council again, Bill. Keep your powder dry, son. Keep your powder dry, was your advice. I've been trying to do that. Thanks very much, Lox. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. We're done. Look, I'll just say a couple of quick comments because I've known Lox for a very long time. Before you were on the community board, as I had a crib down at Otago back in the day. And to me, Lox, you're the epitome of a community cop. And I think you're so deeply entrenched and involved with everybody out on that peninsula. You'd have your finger on the pulse for everything that goes on. And I think the community deeply appreciates and has continued to appreciate the work you've done since you've been retired, because as exemplified by them voting you onto that community board every year you've stood. And so they have great faith in your integrity and wisdom and dedication to their community, and they've showed that. And you, of course, have absolutely exemplified it, not only in your work as the policeman on the peninsula, but also with the Coast Guard and Monticello and many other community groups that you're involved with and have had governance of. So I think you're an absolute exemplar of community spirit and involvement, and you've done great service for so many people within this community, the wider community as well as those on the peninsula. So well done, and thank you so much on behalf of the city. Thank you. So now, the Saddle Hill community. Sorry, come back. Oh, yes, Edna.
So I've got two sets of commentary to make. These are the words from Edna Stevenson, who was unable to attend today. I have been privileged to have served our city through 4 terms on the Otago Peninsula Community Board. It has been both rewarding and demanding, but has been a pleasure due to the stability and strength of our board members. During my time, we have accomplished some big goals, such as the almost completed road safety improvement from the city to Harrington Point, and the redevelopment of Taironi Reserve, and many smaller projects which have enhanced the lifestyle of those who live, work and visit our community. I will miss the interactions with the many people in council who I've worked with, and in particular those who have been involved with the Otago Peninsula Community Board during my time. I will continue to keep a keen eye on what is happening in our hood, and I wish the future board and council all the best. The road to success is always under construction. Kindest regards, Edna Stevenson. So my words are, I'd like to recognise the service of Edna Stevenson to the Otago Community Board. Edna began her foray into community advocacy back in the 1980s in Harwood, where she worked to develop its first playground. Driven by the needs of the Taironi community, her election to the board was part of her advocacy for the beach and playground there. Edna has served the Peninsula Community Board with distinction for 12 years, bringing with her a deep commitment to the well-being of the Peninsula community and a strong focus on practical outcomes. She's been a steady and thoughtful presence at meetings, contributing valuable insights and ensuring the voice of residents was heard and respected. Yes, she also knew where every pothole was, especially the McAndrew Bay area. On a lighter note, Edna was a great baker, is a great baker. In every community board meeting, she would turn up with a fruit loaf. What a great way to start the meetings. Your contribution has made a lasting difference to the Peninsula. Thank you, Edna, for your years of service. And from Paul Pope, Edna has served the community board admirably and productively over the years. Fiercely proud of where she came from and the people she represented. Her dedication and hard work has been exceptional. Thank you, Edna.
Thank you. Yes. Councillor Gary.
Thank you. I wish to speak about Edna Stevenson, both in my council role and as former chair of the community board when I served with Edna. As Councillor Wiley has pointed out, Edna came onto the board, as many people do, through an issue, and it was the Taironi project that I first got to know her when she would come to the board in public forum to lobby around that project, and she was there to the bitter end when the project was successfully executed. She's a particularly hard worker, very conscientious, and if she says she's going to do something, she does it. She's a real doer. One of the jobs that I delegated to her was to pick up the scholarship project, which was a new innovation to put some money aside from the project fund for scholarships to award seed money to young people on the Otago Peninsula to then go off and do amazing things, which they did, and Edna did an excellent job with that. She also covered McAndrew Bay and did that very diligently throughout. She was always a very strong and consistent advocate for the area, and she had a real focus on safety for the Peninsula people. And most recently, I have worked with her in my role as councillor and in her role as community board member at the last annual plan and this long-term plan. And I want to thank her most sincerely for her work in support of Te Awa Otako and the completion of that project. And as the Mayor described to me at that time, the turnout that she managed to achieve from the community to the long-term plan hearings was extraordinary. Edna's the epitome of a hardworking, effective community board member, advocating for the community, working with council to the benefit of the community, and she learnt how to work within council processes to get the outcomes that she was after. A very resilient person who always had her eye on the goal. So it was a real privilege to serve with Edna, and I wish her a pleasant and healthy retirement.
Thank you. So now we'll move to the Saddle Hill Community Board, and Councillor Gilbert will speak to that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And indeed, when you asked me at the beginning of the triennium whether I would consider to be a councillor on a community board, and specifically Saddle Hill, I was unsure at the time as to the value of community boards. However, I accepted your advice, and I'm very glad I did so. Because during my time with Saddle Hill, I have watched, been impressed by, and I hope been of help at times, as the board has, among many, many other things, loudly and strongly advocated for the needs of their community on everything from bus services, bus shelters, basketball courts, coastal erosion, drainage issues, vegetation cutbacks, shared pathways, picnic tables, water fountains, murals, and of course, Smooth Hill. They've held civil defence and community preparedness events. They've attended various community events such as in Green Island, as well as the Brighton Gala Day, literally facing up to their community and being the direct and sometimes blunt conduit between the community and the council, as well as protecting their area from flooding during heavy rain events. Now, I cannot with the same insight speak of other community boards. However, what I can say is that my experience with Saddle Hill has proven to me the value that community boards can offer. And I cannot presume to highlight everything that all the retiring community board members have achieved during their time on their boards. And while some things may not be as completed as they had hoped they would be, and I'm very sure we will be hearing from Scott Weatherall in due course, I hope they can take pride in the efforts and progress that have been made and the successes that have been had. In my opinion, if you ever want to see an example of a group of people who give of themselves for the community, you only need to look at community boards, where it is often done at the expense of private lives, of times with family, or even at times, and quite literally in the middle of the night, trying to protect their neighbours' properties with sandbags. And my experience of the team on Saddle Hill is that this is also done without ego, without politics, and always with the best for the community in mind. In the case of Saddle Hill Community Board, with the retirement of Christina McBratney, Scott Weatherall and Keith McFadden, we and the community need to say a huge thank you to 52 years of combined service, with 9, 21 and 22 years respectively. And so I have passed on privately to them our thanks, but for them and for all of those retiring, please take pride in what you have achieved and in the service that you have given to your community. And while there are many people that may not be aware of all that you have done, those of us that are hugely grateful. So I would like to extend sincere thanks and gratitude to Christina, Scott and Keith on behalf of their community, the council and the city.
Thank you. Councillor Gary.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And through my time on Community Board, I got to know a lot of Community Board members, which is reflecting in a number that I need to speak about. Certainly didn't know all of them and want to acknowledge all of those retiring. There are a very large number. But I did want to speak about Scott Weatherall, because Scott was chair when I was chair of the Otago Peninsula Community Board. He was chair of the Saddle Hill Community Board. And when I led the appeal to the Local Government Commission after the representation review, Scott was right there alongside me. I could always count on him. And we would meet as chairs, and that was always a positive experience. If Scott had a criticism to make about anything, he was always incredibly constructive in doing so. His long service has benefited his community tremendously, and I have seen him as an encourager of others, putting others on the board forward, mentoring them, encouraging them to take roles. And I think that's evident from him standing back from the chair, which was a very generous thing to do. His leadership during civil defence emergencies was outstanding, and it didn't always go well because sometimes it would bring Scott into some tension with council, but he always navigated that with grace and dignity, and always as a strong advocate for his community. I want to again acknowledge Scott's family, because he was a very busy paramedic, as well as chair of the community board, and it is a busy role. So thank you to Scott's family as well as to him for his long service.
Thank you. Councillor Wiley.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of serving on the community board in 2013 to 16 with Scott and Keith. When you talk about people really delivering grassroots and getting their hands dirty doing stuff, those two really epitomise a lot of that in what I saw. Councillor Gary just touched on the 250 or the disasters or the rain events that happened. Councillor Weatherall was able to speed dial in 215. The local policeman shut down the road and basically save people's properties and ensure that nobody else was harmed or anything of detrimental consequences took place. He was able to take action, and I think that was the thing about Scott. When he saw an issue, he took charge and he basically dealt with it. We got a rubbish bin. You know what? Anybody knows who's been on community boards how hard it is to get a rubbish bin. Scott made sure we got a rubbish bin in certain areas. Things like that got delivered. So, and I can't think of the Saddle Hill Community Board without a Weatherall name on it. Maybe if Brent's re-elected, he'll be the councillor position down there to maintain the momentum. But I also want to touch on Keith. I tell you what, Keith is unbelievably well connected down in that part of town as well. And God, he may not say a lot at meetings, but when he did, you took note and you also knew stuff was going to happen. So I want to acknowledge those two. And I remember Christina coming onto the community board in 2016, a little shy and, fledgling duck. And wow, did she actually embrace the committee, the board, and really found her stripes and really stepped up. So all three of them will be a great loss to the community board.
Thank you. And I'll just, Councillor Mayhem.
I just wanted to acknowledge Christina McBratley briefly for the entire time that she served on the Saddle Hill board. She's also been part of Keep Dunedin Beautiful and is my deputy chairperson. Of all of the members of the Keep Dunedin Beautiful team, I could always count on Christina to turn up at tree planting events and did more than the lion's share of community cleanups, plus continually advocating for the Wardrumville, Green Island, Brighton, Saddle Hill areas. I'm happy to say, even though she's stepping down from her role on the community board, she's going to remain on Keep Dunedin Beautiful. So thank you very much, Ms. McBratney.
And I'll just echo the comments of everyone so far, but I did serve a term on the Saddle Hill Community Board between 16 and 19, between 19 and 22. It was a great deal of fun. And there was a bit happened in that time. And so in addition to the community board's emergency response, because there was a larger rain event in that time, Scott in particular, but the whole board together did arrange a whole bunch of different events. But Scott in particular put up got a Taieri Mouth safety meeting going for marine users, boat users in particular, who were going out through Taieri Mouth. And that was before and after a tragic event that happened there. So he worked hard to educate the community and the people who were using that bar crossing as to how they might take best care of themselves and be alerted to the issues there. And also, he organised a multi-sport event for Taieri Mouth. So how such a small community as that could have a significant and very well attended multi-sport event is amazing. So I did go down there and help out for the one that happened while I was on the board. And it was fantastic to see that whole community come together and all athletes from around the town come and compete. So That is the kind of community spirit and enthusiasm and event that just happens around community boards in general, but in particular for the Saddle Hill Community Board, which I was closest to, they really got into that. So it's fantastic to see and fantastic to be part of. Thank you. So now we'll call on Councillor Ackland to speak to the Strathtyre Community Board.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to have been the council appointee to this board. I thought, yeah, I got the one that's the furthest away, but I am very grateful for the time that I was, for the last 3 years of being on that board, and it really does open up your eyes to what's happening at the real local level. You know, we obviously deal with a lot of things here as governance for the city as a whole, but when you're sitting around a small table in a damp hall sort of cup of tea room with the odours of many years of old, you really do get the feel for what it's like in small communities. And we're here today to acknowledge Barry Williams and Anna Wilson. And I'll talk about Barry first. Barry Williams has been on the board for 36 years. That's 12 terms. That is a long time. And for a good portion of that time, Barry has been chair of the board as well. His absolute devotion, dedication, hard work for his community, just totally outstanding. He was massive when it came to the infrastructure of the area. And I remember when I was on council coming up 20 years ago that I ended up somehow going for a look around the back roads of Middlemarch with Barry and I think another councillor at the time. And he was pulling no punches. He wanted some work done on these back roads, and believe me, by the time we got back, the fear that I went through with his driving on these back roads made me think, just give him whatever he wants. But I also acknowledge Barry's dedication to his community from other areas as well, and I'm talking about the late 90s now, when I used to play in a band that played up at Middlemarch for various things, and they had a lot of events up there, and Barry was always in the thick of that as well. And even now, if there's anything happening in Middlemarch, Barry's right in there, along with Lorna, his wife, with doing anything from catering to facilitating. Middlemarch is an interesting place, and I never dreamed in a million years would I be opening an exhibit in at their museum being a submarine in Middlemarch. But the platypus is there, it's been restored, and that's how quirky you can get when you're talking about small communities. But yeah, I could probably talk for quite a long time about Barry and his achievements and his dedication. But believe it or not, he is actually a very humble man, and I had the opportunity to speak to him at the board meeting a week or two ago in this regard. So Barry Williams, if you are watching this, thank you very, very much for your service, 36 years as a board member and a chair, of course, for a good portion of that in Middlemarch. Anna Wilson is the deputy chair, and she's been there for the last 3 years. And obviously I only met Anna for the first time 3 years ago in this particular role. And over the last 3 years, I've got to say that I'm really quite amazed that she's not standing for re-election. I thought that it would have been a natural progression for her to become chair of the Strathtyre Community Board. And Anna was very, again, dedicated and devoted to the issues that she spoke to and brought to the board table. Again, I'd thank her very, very much for her service, albeit it's been 3 years, but Anna's not that old, so I'm picking that she may come back one day. and give it another whirl. So Anna, thank you very much for your service to the Strathclyde Community Board. Thank you.
Yes. And I've had a little bit of involvement with the Strathclyde Community Board, and I'd just like to point out a couple of things that have happened during Barry Williams' tenure of 36 years is quite a phenomenal thing, but there's three particular highlights that stood out to me, because I was possibly one of few in the room that has driven up to Middlemarch and beyond in the days when the road was gravelled all the way. And so now getting that designated State Highway 87 and sealed all the way through made a significant difference to that community, and he was a very strong advocate for that. Something else that has happened is getting their local swimming pool covered and get it run in a sustainable fashion, so that community all participates in the use and maintenance of that swimming pool, which is a really important community facility. Of course, they've got the local museum and a range of other facilities up there, and I think we'll see a rejuvenation of that community once we get the Taieri Gorge train or the track maintained to extend to Middlemarch. And the other thing that happened, which really put Middlemarch on the map as far as Dunedin and even further afield goes, was the singles dance, which ran for 20 years. And so a community event like that can really pull a community together and give them a lot of pride in what goes on there, because they're quite a remote rural community. So, thank you. We'll now move on to Councillor O'Malley and the Waikouaiti Coast Community Board.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been on that community board for 9 years, and in fact I announced to them the second last meeting that I won't be available for the next training if I am back here or not. So I had my going away with them on the last meeting. I'll start with Mark Brown. I've always enjoyed working with Mark. I was telling a story that when I first attached to the community board, we were sitting down by the town hall waiting to have our community board photo taken, and I was probably about a foot behind him, and he goes, "Who's this guy O'Malley? I don't even know who he is. Is he any good?" And I'm like, "I can hear you." And it turned out, and Mark has always been a bit of rough around the edges in that regard, but his heart is actually really good, and so once you get to know him, he's a good bloke to work with. He's pretty much a stalwart of the Waitati community, with the nursery there as well, and has often has not used his experience in life to do what he can for his community. So I think one of the best examples of that would be my first term on the council. The pine forest down at Waikouaiti had been cut down on Matanaka Drive and was going to be replanted in natives, or is now being replanted. The council was operating it without the interaction with the community board, and the budget was blowing out ridiculously, to be honest. And so Mark got in there with Alistair Morrison, and they effectively took the project over, worked with Brendan Flack at the Marae to get locally sourced plants, and then have had a very successful replanting down there and managed to finish the project off inside the remaining budget. So I think that's a really good example of how a community board works, and also how community active people work. And I could list them all, but I really haven't thought of them, so I can't list them all. But Mark's been involved with almost everything that went on that board for the period of time that he's been on there. Chris is retiring after one term, but it's only really because of the fact that he's moving into town, so he's no longer going to be in the community board district area, so therefore it's a moot question as to whether he'd run or not. I was really impressed in his approach to services. You know, when you get on a community board, it's your first time finding yourself in the system, to put it mildly, and it takes a lot of adjustment to get there. He again demonstrates really strong community and social responsibility. He's an active member of the Territorial Force as well, and so between that and the community board, he's putting a lot of time into what you could call national and community service that obviously takes him away from his family and his business. And I know he runs a large business, and so I think in many respects he's just doing what a lot of us have to do and put their weight back into where they can, and obviously not living out there anymore. He's no longer available to the community board. But I did talk to him at the end of the last meeting, and I said, would you ever do anything like this again? And he says he wasn't sure, but I would not be surprised to see him again sometimes in the future running for office again, because he's got that personality of the person who does their thing for their community and was very effective on the community board.
Thank you. And Councillor Mayhem will speak to the West Harbour Community Board.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge all of the community-minded people who served this term on the West Harbour Community Board. I'd also like to thank the staff for their support, the many GSOs, Mr Ward and then Mr Henderson from the leadership team supporting at our meetings. All of the elected members, but especially the two wonderful wahine who are stepping down, the current Deputy Chair, Christina Goldsmith, who served on the Community Board for 4 years after successfully winning the by-election in 2021, serving as Deputy Chair there for the last 3 years. She's shown leadership and dedication. I've enjoyed working alongside her tireless energy, bubbly personality, kindness, welcoming smile and dedication to serving the community. Our first group event was the opening of the Te Ara Moana Shared Pathway. Christina is a member of the Otago Navy Cadets Committee and her family are heavily involved with the Port Chalmers Sea Cadets. She's a busy mother of 4 and she's invested 22 years in the local schools and organisations of the port area. She's been a big part of that community, local play centre, serving on Keep Dunedin Beautiful, and in her board portfolio included the Port Noise Liaison Committee, the Infrastructure Committee and liaison with Kāinga Ora on the Albertson Avenue developments, or lack of development as it turns out. She took her role very seriously, liaising with members of the public and the Port of Otago on many issues for the community. Christina was also on the organising committee for the annual West Harbour Community Awards, a wonderful community event acknowledging volunteers in the wider area for their mahi throughout the term. Recently, she obtained her JP status, and she is going to be stepping down due to a conflict of interest as she's pursuing a role as a Judicial Justice of the Peace for the Ministry of Justice. So thank you to Christina and to the Goldsmith whānau for their generously sharing Christina with us, and we're very sad to see her go. I'd also like to thank Dr. Barbara Anderson, a well-known identity of Kerry's Bay. Barbara is a research scientist and curator at Te Hura, the museum, and chair of the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences. She's an MBIE grants assessor, an avid knitter, and a dog mother to 2 Shiba Inu dogs. Barbara is the OAR FM radio sessions reporting on happenings around the board. She represented the Aramoana Liaison Committee, and last term she also served on Keep Dunedin Beautiful as part of her portfolio. Most recently, she did the city a great service running a Meet the Candidates evening at Ravensbourne for the West Harbour candidates this triennium. And also with support of the Otago Institute for Arts and Sciences, she created the amazing resource for voters here in Dunedin, interviewing almost all of the City Council and Otago Regional Council candidates on OAR FM podcasts. I feel that shows her passion for democracy. She's a life member of the Eco Sanctuary, a member of the Otago Conservation Board, and the Rutherford Fellow for the Otago Royal Society of New Zealand. I think that's going to be keeping her busy in the future because her other passions are for ecology, conservation, and the environment. I'd like to record my sincere thanks for the loyal service of both Christina and Barbara on the for the community and on the West Harbour Community Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Walker.
Yeah, thank you. I just noticed we've got the timer on. I don't think we'll need that, but I'm sure we're dying to get to and hear what DBP's got to say to us. The anticipation is killing me. Also, I want to acknowledge you, Lox, for your mahi over the years. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, I think you said community boards are vital. I think that's all we need to know, and you're not wrong. Listen, I'm going to take a slightly different tack here. I know Barbara and Christina really well. I consider them really dear friends. Unfortunately, I don't think either of them have ever forgiven me for nominating and suggesting that they stand for community boards, but I'm working on that, and hopefully once they've retired, our friendship can pick up and prevail in the way it was intended. Thank you.
Excellent. So, with that, I'll put the motion that we record our sincere thanks to all of those retiring community board members. Seconded, Deputy Mayor Lucas. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. And we can now move on to item number 9. So eagerly awaited by Councillor Walker. The acknowledgement of service for retiring Councillor David Benson Pope. And having completed 25 years of service to the Dunedin City Council, it's amazing that he was first elected in 1986 and then departed in 1999 when he was elected to Parliament for the Labour Party in the Dunedin South electorate, and then spent 9 years in government and became the party's senior whip in 2002 and entered cabinet in 2004. And his time in government ended in 2008 and he returned to Dunedin City Council in 2013. Councillor Benson Pope is very passionate about our heritage buildings and was involved in the Council's 1991 decision to buy the Dunedin railway station, which was refurbished and is now a top tourism attraction for Dunedin. He was instrumental in the saving of Dunedin's historic courthouse in 2011. An initial seismic assessment by Opus to the Ministry of Justice showed parts of the building to be a high earthquake risk, so they were vacated and the courthouse was relocated to High Street as a temporary replacement. And in September 2015, the Minister announced that the project to save the courthouse would cost more than $15 million. But in October 15, the Save Our Courthouse group, of which Councillor Benson Pope was a key member, started a public postcard campaign which resulted in more than 2,500 postcards being sent to Parliament, seeking a commitment to return the courts to their current home. And in December 2015, Cabinet announced that the courthouse would be strengthened and restored and modernised, with costs expected to be more than $15 million. So restoration work commenced in October 16, and in January 2018, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern officially opened the building. So more recently, Councillor Benson Pope has been a keen supporter of the Dunedin Hospital campaign. And of course, we've had to get that hospital restored to its full size with two governments, which was successfully achieved. So your passion and service for our beautiful city has been over a great period of time. And those three phenomenal achievements are really significant buildings within our city when we look at the railway station, the courthouse, and now the hospital, but also many other buildings in the private and public sphere within the city. So there's so many things, and I'm sure many people will have commentary, but first I think I'll pass it to you to say a few words, and then I'm sure councillors will love to follow you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's with a degree of reluctance that I stand to make some comment, because thanks to Paul Gorman and the article in the Mix, a lot of what I would otherwise have said has been stolen from me. But I do have some comments I wish to make and some votes of thanks to give. And I also would acknowledge that it's a rare privilege that I had of being able to read my own obituary in the ODT. First of all, I want to acknowledge colleagues over the years who've had the vision to support proposals for developments that have made our city better. And you, Mayor Radich, have alluded to some of those, but I also wanted to thank the staff who gave effect to the council decisions. I have Robert Tung in mind, our former city architect, in respect of the restoration of the tower on the municipal chambers, the building of the steps as originally planned out the front that were never done at construction time, and also the completion of the new entry and atrium to the town hall. All things that we now take for granted, but massive contributions to the effectiveness and attractiveness of the city. I also want to thank Bruce Duda, the former city planner, for the work he did to improve the Octagon and the first refurbishment of George Street and Lower Stewart Street. That work, while it's important in its own right, was more than the whole, providing appropriate recognition of the importance of good urban design and heritage protection. The conversion of the buildings where we now sit, ironically, was strongly opposed by the mayor of the day, but who would now disagree with the appropriateness of this central site and the appropriate housing of arguably New Zealand's best, certainly one of the two best collections of art in New Zealand. Over the years, that list of developments has gained momentum. Purchase of the railway station you've mentioned, the gifting of Lanyuan to the city and the support from government that assisted with the cost of construction, the comprehensive and successful restoration work on the warehouse precinct, thanks to the work above and beyond of Dr. Hazelton, and the successful campaigns that you referred to ensure the restoration of the High Court and that new hospitals, 2 of them, would be as close as practicable to both the CBD and the tertiary campus. Add to all that the wonderful work in George Street, a new pool in Mosgiel, and long-awaited library in South Dunedin. Sadly, the arrival of COVID put paid, for the time being anyway, to the inevitable redevelopment of the Upper Harbour, but that, I'm sure, is a matter only for the future. Speaking of COVID, we all know that support from central government for our communities and businesses saved not only thousands of lives, but kept our economy ticking over despite the pressures of lockdown. And that's why the business as usual approach of our City Council is so important, even when, or especially when, times are tough. It's all about employment and activity and the increased functionality and attractiveness of our city, and that's a message for anyone around the table who's genuinely interested in developing our economy. The commitment of previous councils to the raising and widening of Portobello Road is such a project. It's been referred to, I know, but for me it's one that stands out as far more significant than the mere design and safety improvements. And the budgeted completion of the final sections is a most welcome part of the agreed long-term plan and a promise kept in recognition of the helpfulness of the runaka in regard to the staging and consenting of the work. At a personal level, the most rewarding work that I've been fortunate enough to be involved in was the processing of the second generation plan. This council is extraordinarily fortunate to have such highly skilled and experienced staff, nowhere more than in planning and urban design, and the ability and professionalism of Dr. Johnson and her team have already ensured that we have a district plan that is fit for purpose and is already yielding the intended intensification in the areas that are appropriate, also providing expansion in areas where we can effectively provide services. There's no shortage of challenges coming our way, of course, and the last couple of years have shown that. And I hope the incoming council will have the vision needed to commit to appropriate measures to further improve and increase our housing stock, manage our emissions better, and progress the excellent work in respect of South Dunedin in particular, but also our other coastal communities. In addition, I hope the new council will have the courage to continue to stand up for our Ukrainian and Palestinian communities experiencing such horror in their homeland. It's been a new experience for me watching from the wings for the last few weeks, and I certainly haven't missed going out in the morning to assess the damage to the hoardings. Good luck to you all, councillors and new candidates alike. May you all receive the electoral success you deserve. The new brains around the table will, I'm sure, recognise the importance of supporting in every way possible our largest employer in Dunedin and delivering the long-discussed urban improvements on the campus edge. It's been an honour to serve our community over such a long period. Thank you to the electorate for that consistent support, and thanks also to my family for their tolerance and advice, which is mostly heeded. Thanks also to the chief executives who've served the enlarged city since reform in 1989. In particular, standouts for me are Murray Douglas, Sue Bidrose and Sandy, all of whom brought particular intelligence and energy to their work, and a special thank you to the councillor support staff for their patient management of elected members and the mountains of reports and documents on which we rely. Finally, to my closest colleagues, Christine, Maria and Steve, thank you for your like-mindedness, commitment and hard work. Without the support of people you trust, little can be achieved around this table.
No. I now invite comments from councillors. Councillor Walker.
Better stand up too, because it will be quite brief. First off, sorry about this, Henry, but my wife refers to your dad as my New Zealand dad. So I do sort of partly own him while we're in this chamber, so you can have him back. Dave, thank you for that speech, and thank you from me personally as a colleague, but also a friend, for your smarts, your brains, your foresight, and for me, your personal support. It's been invaluable. I don't think I'm keeping any secrets here when I say it's been a pretty tough triennium for you and I, and for some others around here. But I thank you for the support. I don't think without that support I would have gotten through this. Thank you, Carmen. Good timing. Through this 3 years with the remaining sanity I have. I also want to thank you for something else, which is a great asset of yours. That's your grumpiness. You're probably my favourite grumpy person in the world. And I've just realised, I was looking at this earlier, that I'm probably going to have to spend the next month clearing most of the unsavoury messages that you and me have sent each other during the past 3 years, because I think if they were ever found, we'd both be in trouble. And I think I'll speak for all of us when I say whatever happens during this election, that around this table you will be sorely missed. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Councillor Houlihan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I didn't think I'd be saying this, because I have to say last term I found Councillor Benson Pope really frustrating and annoying. But this term I've actually quite enjoyed working with you, so thank you for that. And I've always, right from the beginning, watched your abilities, because you're very experienced. There's no doubt about that. And I hope I've learned a bit from you, from the raised eyebrows I get every now and then. I'm not sure, but I try my best. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for your passion and your ability, and yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Gary.
I'm also going to stand because I know David really likes that part of standing orders, which we've sort of abandoned. So out of respect to you, David, I'm going to stand. And we first met a very, very long time ago when David used to come and take over from me as a voluntary cook on the Spirit of Adventure in New Zealand, so that I could go off and have leave. So that was where we first met. Then we met when he was during his first time, round as a councillor, and I came to public forum asking for a footpath for my charges at Tolkien Boarding Residence, and I recall the way you warmly treated me when I was in public forum. It can sometimes be quite overwhelming. So thank you for those two things. However, I want to speak to my experience with you as a fellow councillor. But first of all, I want to acknowledge Jan in the gallery, David's wife, Henry, his son and partner Yasmin, and also thinking of Sammy and family as well. Councillor David Benson Pope, you have been a trusted colleague from whom I have learnt a great deal. In my experience, your institutional knowledge, your governance experience and your collegiality have been hallmarks of your time as a city councillor to the benefit of the city. That and your deep understanding of standing orders and council processes have kept us all in check. And I'm sure the next council will need to step up in terms of knowledge of standing orders with you not there. Your advice and mentorship has been greatly appreciated in an otherwise very challenging triennium. Above all, your considered debate based on facts and your ability to intelligently articulate your position on any matter have been positive additions around the council table. I've appreciated your wisdom, David, and clarity about how to get things done as a councillor. It's something, as a new councillor, it takes a while to learn. Your ability to strongly and firmly articulate the facts and rise above the noise with confidence has always been impressive. Mind you, you can cut through a debate with a hard-hitting comment, and it's true you don't suffer fools gladly, and you can be very direct, as we all know, but you have a wicked sense of humour as well. I do want to refer, though, to the fact that you have a compassionate and kind side, and I have been fortunate to see that. You're one of the few who bothers to check that you're doing okay and you ask after family, because this is a tough gig. You've always had a great interest in ensuring the look and feel of the city is the best it can be from an urban planning perspective. Think George Street, Bath Street, and prior to that Princess Street with the heritage lighting, etc. You absolutely understand that the livability of the city is what attracts new residents to Ōtepoti. I've witnessed your strong chairing skills and seen your commitment to the 2GP process, the Heritage Fund panel, and as an RMA Commissioner. And I thank you for your encouragement of me on the journey as an RMA Commissioner into chairing a number of hearings under your tutelage. Your collegiality and willingness to share your knowledge and experience has been greatly appreciated. Your willingness to see others shine and support them in the background has seen colleagues develop in their governance role in a variety of ways. And you always give credit where it's due, a rare thing in a highly charged political environment. You certainly left the city in a better place than when you first entered local politics. Hats off to your family for your support while your husband and father carried out this role in council. It's impossible to do this without that support. So thank you to Jan, Henry, Sammy and families. You're a political animal, David, and I noticed when I saw you today with that tie on, it reminded me of a dog with a bone, and that kind of epitomises your persistence. And you will no doubt be watching council after you leave with great interest, but do enjoy a well-deserved retirement. Ka mihi nui. Thank you. You will be missed.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Fiso.
Wa whaawhetai, wa mali e mata e ai. Watasi lava oe, ilo unei wha moe. We give thanks, we give thanks. Our eyes are pleased to see you are the only one, in our hopes, in our true dreams. Greetings to Jan and the family. I just want to echo all the complimentary notes that have been made of your achievements. It's a huge career, and I just want to, from my perspective as a former activist who took a long time to acknowledge that I was a politician, it was really great to see you in the council under Mayor Cull in 2016 to 2019. And some of the things that I remember when I was thinking about this was your commitment to not the current hospital campaign, but actually the siting of the campaign. And I remember going with you and Aaron and other councillors, Rachel Elder, I remember, going to various shopping sites, particularly these, what do you call that mall? The one next to Wall Street. George Golden Centre. Yeah. Going there many Saturday mornings and sometimes Friday nights trying to collect signatures so that people would be, residents could have a say about the siting of the hospital, which needed to be close to the medical school and not up the hill. I also remember your commitment to safety, thinking of children around schools and getting, for me, being instrumental in lowering it to 30 kilometres, and always responding really positively when children came to public forum, particularly, in my memory anyway, the Kaitiaki, the town belt Kaitiaki children, and just the measured way that you would hear someone speak at public forum and ask, Madam Chief Executive, how we could action some of those things that were coming. So thank you for that. I also want to echo Councillor Gary's thanks to you in terms of measured advice. Like sometimes we'd be fiery in terms of Palestine, especially this triennium, and we'd want to do things more than we could achieve or more than was politic at the time. So you sometimes pulled us back, so thank you. Thank you for your knowledge of standing orders, and thank you for helping us craft notices of motions. That was really, really well appreciated. So I just want to refer to the ula whala that you have been gifted from me, my family, and my community, Pasifika communities in particular. It's when you go to Pasifika gatherings, you see people wearing those ula. The ula whala is from the pandana seeds, and it's particularly painted red as a symbol of honour and respect. And you will see, if you go to a gathering and you see mostly men wearing those, I don't know, I haven't seen a woman Matai wear it, but that person is a Matai, a rangatira, and so I just want to wish you well on your journeys. Any journey, enjoy the retirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and kia ora, David. Just as the Chair of the Heritage Fund, I want to thank you again, because I thanked you at the last one, for your work on the Heritage Fund, the huge number of years that you gave to service for this, and I know that the building owners, I was going to say love and respect you, but certainly know that you were on their side and helping them along that journey. I've really appreciated the breadth of knowledge of the buildings, the owners, and the histories, and we will really, really miss that around the table, because it's the institutional knowledge that you have that is so precious, and you will leave a big gap behind you. I was just looking, the city is also grateful for your commitment to the positive heritage outcomes and impact on city look and feel. And, you know, I'm obsessed with the residents' opinion survey, but that comes through when we actually look at the results from there, and you have made an appreciable difference by sticking to the 2GP, by making sure that when we were doing the 2GP that those outcomes were uppermost in your mind. And I also respect you as a consummate politician. I was out on the hoardings with someone, and they said that had a memory of many, many years ago you coming and knocking on their door as you were doing your electioneering, and they've voted for you ever since and hold you in high respect. So that comes from the community as well. So thank you for everything that you've done for our city. It is much appreciated, and happy retirement.
Thank you. Councillor O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, David. I'm not one of the three that you mentioned earlier on the list, and I think it's fair to say that at times you and I have clashed over the years, but I would have to say that we've also been very alike in most of our social and community views, and I hold you in a lot of respect for the intellect you bring to the position and the stances you have taken over the years. So I just want to say respect to you, and I wish you good luck in your retirement.
Thank you. I'll just say a couple of things, David, because we're not so much alike as some others around the table. However, I've always had great regard for your intelligence And I consider you a fountain of knowledge and experience for this council. And there's no doubt in my mind that and I think we all, have learned a great deal from you, whether it's in debating skills, whether it's in the history of the city, whether it's in the things that have happened whilst you've been on council. And I think there's a lot to be gained from that institutional knowledge, as Councillor Barker mentioned. And I think the longevity of your tenure and your great memory for things that have happened and how things have gone in the past have been a great benefit to council. So I think Councillor Walker was actually correct in that we will miss that depth of knowledge around the table. And we certainly wish you all the best for your retirement. And given that you're so active and involved in council, I think you in turn may very well miss us. But I think I'm sure you'll find things to keep you occupied and commentary that you'll find to make. So thank you very much on behalf of the city and on behalf of us all. So, oh yes. And so now, just before we put the motion and record it, I have a certificate here so I'll come down and present you with that. This is the second one. So, because of 2 tenures, this is the certificate for the second tenure, and when you stack them on top of each other, they're twice as big. So there we go. Thank you very much. The photo. Here we go. So I move that Council records our sincere thanks to David Benson Pope for the loyal and conscientious service he has given to the Dunedin community as a member of the Dunedin City Council for 12 years during the most recent period, 2013 to 2025. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Walker, yes. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And with that, I'll close the meeting and the triennium. And once we've turned the cameras off, I have a little announcement. Yes,